So, welcome back, or welcome for the first time, everyone, to part three of episode three, the last part in this podcast, episode three. If this is the first time you're listening to us, check out part two and part one in that order, no, the other order. In part one and part two first of this episode, and check out other episodes on our YouTube channel. This is the CLAT Podcast. I'm your host, Janardhan Pashupati. Hello. I got ranked 38 in the CLAT back in the day in 2013. I went to National Law School of India University, and I've had the privilege of mentoring hundreds of students who have written the CLAT since, some of them who are here. We have with us Ayesha Khan, AIR 17, 2023 in the CLAT. We have Aadithya Athreya, AIR 55 in the CLAT 2023, and Singh, AIR 11, CLAT 2023. The reason that they're looking so a little tired is because we've been trying to get this done for a while now, and they've been very kind with their time and their energy. So this is going to be the last part of this episode. I hope you've liked it so far. There's been a gold mine of information, knowledge, and really guidance and wisdom that you can get out of these episodes. But now we're going to dive into actual subject-based advice. Let's deal with the elephant in the room for every CLAT prepper, which is that how do you do GK? How do you do GK? So who has the strongest opinion on this? I'm going to wager that it's me, but who wants to talk about their GK prep? Yeah.
I mean, sure. For me, GK it was definitely a problem, I would say. So I was terrible at GK from the first day to, I would say, literally the last day,
Yeah.
because GK was never my cup of tea. It was always my weakest point throughout. And it just seemed like something I could not get the hang of because I've never been much of a news reader. So this was all something I had to incorporate over time, because in the early days, it was impossible for me to get down and read the newspaper because I loved reading. I've always loved fiction. It's impossible for me to read nonfiction. But I also enjoy reading articles and stuff. But when it comes down to solid, hard facts and current affairs, it just becomes like 5 times more boring for me. Um, but for me, I think I was super bad at GK. Like I was in single digit scores in the beginning. So I think the rest of my sections were pretty up to it even in the beginning. But I think my entire score was lower by like possible 10, 15 marks just because of GK. And I remember in the beginning, I used to tell myself that I'll just be so good at all the other sections that I won't need to be good at GK at all, which did not work out because that's just not something you can do. There's no section you can leave out, even if it's math, even though it's the smallest section. If you want a good rank and if you want like NLS, then there's no section you can leave. So that's what I realized like midway through my prep is that I'm going to have to do GK no matter what, even if I'm terrible at it. So, I mean, my study group helped a lot with that because more in the sense of motivation, because I noticed that everyone around me knew so many things that I definitely didn't. So that kind of forced me to read a lot more. And for me, again, I think I really stepped up my note making also only after September. So there were like 3, 4 failed tries because I've always heard a lot of toppers talk about note making. So I tried physical notes and I tried making notes on my iPad. I tried typed up notes, and I failed at like all of them, and my scores were just not increasing. And I used to keep crying in CL because even to my mentor and stuff, because like GK is just not something I can do. But for me, I think I started with solid GK again after September. So what I focused more on as a study group is we made notes on Notion, so they were online, and we focused more on static events. So we just read vaguely through the newspaper, note down the important things that are actually happening. We had a to-do list as one page, which just seemed to never end. But we had a lot of to-do lists, and we would divide that among ourselves, like, and we had the mantha, and obviously we had CLAT post sources from all coaching centers because we were paranoid enough not to leave anything. And again, it was really hard for me to just read them. Like the Drishti Compendium used to be like 2,000 pages, and it's mind numbing to actually
It's
go through that
200, but okay.
entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
200. Let's say 2,000.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 200. It felt like 2,000, if that
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah.
It certainly did. But
Yeah.
200 pages was also way too much for me.
Right.
But going through that was, again, I felt like I couldn't remember anything at the end of it. So I think
Right.
what really worked for me was noting down actual events that were happening, and we'd make pointers and notes on it. And for me, I used to add like little icons and stickers relating to it on that page because I would get anything just to motivate myself to read that stuff. but I think it helped me to keep them in pointers. So we made a lot of notes towards the end. Each of them were under a specific topic. I don't think a single thing we did came in the actual exam, which was disappointing.
Right.
But I think another thing I learned over time was that what you've done won't necessarily come, but you have a strong enough knowledge base
Yes.
from learning as much as you've done, you'll be well off enough to make an educated guess in the actual
Yes.
exam, which worked out. Or if you've
Yes.
heard of it vaguely enough, or if you're able to eliminate 2 or 3 of the options because of something else you know about them. So again, nothing specifically came which I'd heard of, but still I was able to score like 16, 17, which was good enough for me in that paper because it was very extremely wild GK. So I was able to make educated guesses.
Right.
So for me, throughout, I think GK was a problem. Then we had GK quizzes in which, again, I seemed to not know anything because everyone seemed to know the most out of the way of facts. But I think, again, you need to start on solid basis. Like there's certain static topics like organizations of the UN or important years, important people. That stuff you need to be solidly prepped on because that's still easier stuff. So
Right.
one thing I realized over time is that it's not only current. So they'll take a current topic and throw you back in history. So
Yeah.
you need to do static events related to that current topic. So if something's currently happening in Afghanistan, then I need to know what has happened in Afghanistan before. Right. So I think static was something which I solidly focused on, and current was just a few names, years, which is currently happening, and we updated the page as news went on. So for me, yeah, GK was hard throughout the way, and I think this is for anyone who's gonna give CLAT. GK is never gonna be easy. There's only a few people who might find it very easy to give GK, but I don't think it's something which runs in a lot of people for sure. So it's an effort, but again, like I said, you're not gonna get what you know. So you have to do as much as you can, and it builds enough of a knowledge base for you to make educated guesses about it.
Right. Absolutely. Sana, any thoughts on that?
Right. So GK for me, on like in the actual exam, worked out very well.
Oh,
Because
really?
I'm always So that was a very unpopular opinion. I get met with a lot of
Right. Right.
right.
Right.
So for me, I had a very very nice study group that we were all of us were like very close, and we sort of tried to gamify the process of doing GK. So we would do these like quiz things with two of us on one side, and I would generally be the person who came up with the questions. So I would say my GK prep has been quite patchy throughout.
Okay.
So there were months where I covered pretty much everything I could cover, like June, for example, and there's months where I have done next to nothing, like August, and I don't think even towards the end I was able to cover that or bridge that gap. Um, but I think one thing that worked in my favor was all the Wikipedia spirals that I went on, right before CLAT. So just to distract myself from, the process of prep and all the stress, I would try and pick up and like read anything that interested me and just go down on like this little like binge reading session related to that specific topic. And there were things that so I have a friend Sumedh who,
Yep.
of course,
Shout out to Sumit.
right.
And
Yeah, shout out to Sumedh
you're
because
right.
I have like at least 5 to 6 marks in GK solely because of things he's told me about
Yep.
Sam Bankman-Fried, and he has very esoteric interests that
Yes.
he
Yes.
loves to tell me about.
Yes.
And he sends me all these blog posts and things like that, Substack blogs, and I read up on them, and it's all very enlightening for me.
It's
And
very cool.
initially I used
Yeah.
to, of course, very
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
And he got me into things like ACX and right. So I'm always
Yeah.
thankful to him for that.
Right.
And it's like I also developed, an interest in these things that are sort of like niche subjects that a
Right.
lot of people, while attempting the exam, were thrown off by. Like they just hadn't ever heard of these things. And I think being somewhat chronically online helped my cause here because I've just explored so much on random forums and blogs that it's like it was very easy for me to make educated guesses, and things sort of came intuitively after a certain point because I could eliminate two options, and I felt like I could take a risk with when I knew that it had to be one of the other two choices.
Right.
And like Ayesha had mentioned, it's like when you develop like a knowledge base wide enough to aid you in eliminating options, it becomes much easier to do GK in a way that isn't just like categorically checking off, okay, I've done this,
Yes.
I've covered all of this, because that really is very difficult. Like I remember there was a point in time where I tried to get through the Drishti IS compendiums and I just gave up. I properly gave up. I told myself this is not my cup of tea. I'm never going to be able to do this. and
Right.
making all those handwritten notes is just going to make like it's just going to make my hand hurt and my
Yeah.
head hurt, and it's
Right.
not something. Yeah, and it's like GK is a 35-mark section, like you get what,
Yes.
35 questions from it, and had always focused on ensuring that my reading section score could hit like an
Yes.
85 at least.
Yes.
So for me, GK and quant were both just boosters to sort of
Yes.
make me cross 100.
Yes.
And that had been my strategy throughout. So even when I wasn't doing very well in GK on my marks, I don't think it really discouraged me as much, because I knew that it wasn't really part of like my core strategy. Of
Right.
course, I wouldn't recommend anyone to ignore it as a section entirely, because it's very, very important. But at
Yes.
the same time, I think with like the shift in pattern from like this year onwards, I would suggest just reading a lot, reading the newspaper, reading, blogs, and the Guardian, just everything you can get your hands on. I think just being hungry for that knowledge helps
Yes.
a lot. A lot of the times it's going to be okay. So I think one source I would really recommend is Indian Express Explained.
Yeah.
They make everything very interesting, concise, crisp, everything just rolled into one. So you can look at that, on the weekends whenever you have time. They generally have 5 to 6 articles at least out. You can figure out what is important for you and what isn't, and go through it at your own pace. And it's also just interesting to know those things. So I've always been into quizzing and stuff. So for me to just know things was like enough motivation. It wasn't really I have to do this for CLAT. It was like,
Right.
if I want to know, I will find out anyway.
Right. So Sana has highlighted some points which are too important to ignore, and are 3 points that I want to really make clear to anybody listening. Firstly, get curious. Get curious about the world. Do not make it a chore for yourself. Do not make it a chore for yourself. Just don't be like, I have to do, like so many times students will ask me, should I do my backlog? I've done the January month. I don't understand what these things mean. Should I not read the newspaper? What does that even mean? You have to really get curious about the world around you, and that's the best way to do GK. The second thing that she mentioned is get a group. Do it with somebody. That's the divide and conquer everything, because there's a lot to cover, and it's better that you do it with a group. And the third thing is just you have to the don't make it a GK exam. I see a lot of students like my batchmates since I was in CL to every year I see people make this a GK exam. It's not a GK exam. Do not make your prep about GK. It is 35 marks. Yes, it's important. Yes, cover it. But if you're spending 80% of your preparation time doing GK, you're leaving out 115 marks on the table. As Sana said, and this is exactly what I did. You can hear it from Ayesha. I love to get Aditya's perspective on this genuinely. But my experience was the same. GK was just my experience was exactly like Ayesha's. I was just like, this is not happening. So I spent the last month just on GK, cover my bases. And then it was all about the other sections, making sure I would get enough marks. I'm pretty sure I had the lowest GK score of all my batchmates, 25 out of 50 back in the day. And that was the first year that negative marking was introduced. At the same time, however, if you're getting, 80%, 85%, 90% accuracy in all the other sections, what Sana said is exactly right. 85 out of 100 in the reading sections, maths and GK are boosters. So that's how I would recommend every student to look at their prep. Yes. I'd love to hear your GK story. Yeah.
So, to be honest, my GK plan was very different from both Ayesha's and Sanat's. It was never something to do for me. So, one thing I'd like to just bring into attention is that for those of you out there who do extracurriculars, if any of you do either debate or model UN,
Yeah.
you inherently know more.
Yeah.
By the virtue of the fact that you've been around people who do those kind of events very competitively, you inherently know more. one of our batchmates, Viraj,
Yeah.
he prepared for CLAT for, I think he told us he prepared for a month.
Yeah.
He got AIR 50. Now, one of the things I believe are the reasons for him doing so well are he's an avid debater. So, as a person who enjoys and undertakes those kind of events, you learn a lot of things as a byproduct. For me, like, for example, when we had the whole AFSPA renewal, the renewal of AFSPA in Northeast India,
Yeah.
it wasn't something to be like, okay, AFSPA was passed in this year,
Yeah.
it was meant to control Naga insurgency.
Right.
Because I had done the same thing in a model UN a
Right.
couple of weeks ago. So I not only knew the history of the event, I also knew the politics, which made it more interesting. So for any of you who believe that, okay, CLAT is a single-minded thing, I will drop everything else and just do CLAT,
Yeah.
it might be more helpful to do the other things.
Yes.
As strange and as messed up as that sounds, it might actually be more helpful to seek out avenues of knowledge.
Yes.
And exactly as Sana said, if you can compensate for your reading sections well enough, GK becomes a booster. One thing that one of my instructors told me in the very beginning when I told him, sir, I'm not getting a good GK score, I'm not getting the 25 or something. He said, CLAT is not a GK exam,
That was
it's a
probably
reading
me.
exam.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that
That may have been me.
probably you, sir.
Yeah.
Highly possible.
Yeah.
So he said, CLAT is not a GK exam, it's a reading exam.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that the consortium has often
Actually
said is
sounds
that
like Sridhar. Sorry to interrupt. Actually sounds like Sridhar trying to convince you to do more English. But anyway.
I think it was Sridhar, sir, actually.
Yeah.
He was a mentor of mine, one of
Yeah.
my
Right.
closest mentors, of huge support throughout the
Yeah.
entire process. Another
Absolutely.
very important thing, find a mentor.
Yeah.
You need somebody who's done this before to guide you through it.
Yes.
Anyway, so yeah, he told me that it's a reading exam. The consortium has told all of us that you don't need to know the law to write CLAT.
Yeah.
But what do you need to be able to do? You need to be able to read and understand.
Yes.
That's why the new pattern makes it a lot easier than these older patterns that
Yes.
we had.
Right.
Because all we have to do is read and understand.
Right.
A lot of GK questions can be inferred from the passage themselves.
Yes.
Like I remember we had this one set of questions on a defense deal between India and Russia.
Right.
I don't know who the Russian defense minister is, and there's a high chance that you probably won't know either. So I went to the set of questions and I picked the most Russian sounding name over there.
Exactly.
Because our options were Sergey something and three names that were very obviously not Russian.
Correct.
So you might ask, okay, there's a high possibility that this won't happen in the actual CLAT. Funnily enough, it probably will. Your answer options often just stare back at you. You just have to look at them, which is why my GK journey was more about me using whatever knowledge I had with a little bit of addition from the GK material I did to infer a guess.
Absolutely.
Sure. When we have like important topics, we had the Nobel Prizes this year.
Sure.
That was a huge, very, very important part that everybody has to cover as part of GK.
Yeah.
But the fact is, if you already are interested in things, if you're curious about things, and especially if you do them in a competitive setup, it forces you, it just ingrains it into your head.
Correct.
I remember doing a conference in 9th grade about Article 375's constitutionality, Article 370, sorry.
Yeah.
And I still remember to this date, okay, Kashmiri Pandit exodus happened as a result of declarations issued by local militants. This is more concentrated in the Kashmir Valley. Jammu has a majority Hindu population.
Yeah.
And all of these events line up like a story.
Right.
It's, I don't know if this is the right word for it.
Yeah.
But I read my GK like I did 10th grade history.
Exactly. You read it like a storybook. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Because like each element that we have. Right. So for example, if we were to talk about ASPA, 1958, it first came out. Right. For what? Naga problem.
I'm going to love the comment section now, but let's see what happens. Yeah. Yeah.
The whole beauty of that is you have layers to each event. Right. Because just like a fiction book, you have an introduction of your characters, you have a twist in the story, somebody changes sides. Right. The real world is exactly like that. Right. Which allows us to truly not just memorize GK for the sake of an exam, but understand it. And the good part about this is you can apply those concepts later to not just understanding maybe your English or the math section, but generally on just your outlook on life. Because
Right.
if you can understand something, understand what they did, what mistakes they made, what they did right and wrong, it'll benefit you in ways you couldn't even imagine. So
Absolutely.
my GK journey was just all about doing extracurriculars and reading. Of course, you cannot do it without reading. You have to do, the GK materials that we get. But doing that 24/7, personally, it didn't help me. I found it better when I had to argue with somebody else about it. If you tell me to memorize the Constitution's first 10 articles about citizenship or something, I won't be able to do that. But tell me to go fight a case for somebody who is arguing as a citizen of India, I'll be able to do that.
Right.
So for me, it was more based on a hands-on approach. If I can understand the entire event and then maybe even choose a side at it, I would know it better. And one last thing was that if GK is bad for you, it's bad for everybody. Right?
Right.
There's a very high chance that if you don't know it, 90% of the people out there don't.
Sure. Right.
Because we had a question this year about Sam Bankman-Fried,
Right.
who is something that most of us have not even heard of. To be honest, the only reason I knew
Sure.
him
Yeah.
was because I had classmates who were into the crypto industry.
Right. Right.
So if it's bad for you, it's probably bad for everybody else.
Right.
Might as well compensate for it with another section. That was my outlook on GK.
No, absolutely. I think you've hit a lot of nails on the head, which is that go to MUNs, go do debates, expand your worldview, put yourself in positions where you have to apply it, not just learn it through and speaking about it. Like I had to really push myself for debates in the hostel, which would happen on campus. So, and I think that's a great way to prepare yourself. Debating is a huge part of NLS culture, of NLU culture, of law school culture. And both law school used as the name that we call NLU and NLS, and also all the other law schools in general. So get ready for that. That's really what they're testing you for. So I think that's a great segue into what I intended to be the second part of this. So I know you guys have been rapidly researching NLS. I don't know if before you got in. I didn't do it before I got in. I only started doing it. I was a little disappointed when I turned up because I was from Hyderabad. Nalsar's campus has a little cricket stadium inside, almost. And it's massive and it's very impressive. And when I came to NLS in the middle of Nagarpur, I was like, ye nahi ho sakta. So, like, kahan hai college? So, in that context, where's the best, Nalsar said, like, where's the better college than Nalsar here? So, in that context, do you have you're starting college. It's an exciting time. I can see all of you are really excited, apart from Sana, who I can't see. I can see all of you are really excited about it. So, what questions have you got answered already, and what questions you have from me as an NLS senior? See, and once we stop recording, I'll tell you the other stuff. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So, what question? I mean, really, let's. Any question is fine. Yeah, we haven't scripted any of this. Yeah. Do you have any questions, or have all your questions been answered?
I mean, for me, I guess they've not been answered because I cannot get myself to contact any senior yet.
Okay.
I will need some more time to get myself to do that. But yeah, for me, actually, I've been researching, I wouldn't say only NLS, but I've been obsessed with NLU since forever. So I had an idea of what all of them look like, what goes on everywhere. But now it's obviously been very NLS based. Like I've read all Quirk articles, I've watched there's no vlogs with NLS,
Did you read
sadly,
my
but
Quirk article?
I'm not sure. I don't check the names, but I
It's
might
a
have.
it's a dictionary. It's a dictionary of terms. It's very
I
old.
think I've read that.
Yeah.
I might have. I really like the
Sure.
calendar one they made recently.
Right.
But basically, I've seen whatever there is. I've also constantly I have one tab open of the NLS website at all times. But I think one thing we were kind of worried about was, of course, the trimester system, because
Yeah.
after giving CLAT, we're having to study for boards. So it's like a constant grind, and then we get like 1 month off, and then it's back to NLS. So, I mean, academic rigor again is something I am personally quite worried about, because I wanted to take a break in college after school, which is not seeming very likely. So I guess that's one thing.
Right. So you're asking me about the trimester system, and you're asking me about academic rigor. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a grind. It's an absolute grind. But there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is, okay, so so now it's the academic rigor is very high because of our VC and the faculty that are there. The academic system has also changed a little bit. It's also gotten a little tougher in some ways and easier in others, but obviously the structure remains. So, let me give you the worst of the bad news. It is more than likely, forget more than likely, you will not graduate with the same people that you joined with. Okay. So that either means that people from you will get too many repeats and you will be what we call an year loss and you will join the batches, your juniors, or people in your batch will that will happen to them, right? So it's not an easy system. It's not an easy system. So that's the worst of the bad news. And I'm sure your brother would have told you stories of that and stuff like that as well. So it's not news to you that year losses and repeats and stuff like that happen. So that's the worst of the bad news. The good news is that it happens in like a wave cycle in terms of time commitment. So everyone's busy at the same time, and then nobody's busy for the next 2 weeks, and everyone's busy again at the same time. So how it works is that once you get in, you have a month for your first. So every trimester you'll have a month, roughly a little more than a month for your first submission of 2 projects. So every trimester you'll have 4 subjects. You'll have to do a project in each, mid-sem and an end-sem in the first year and second year for each, and viva for each, and attendance. Attendance is more chill than many universities I know, even though it's a problem for many people to wake up at 8. The 8:45 march from the hostel to the acad block from 8:45 to 8:50 will happen. You will brush your teeth, not like hygiene will be a problem. So, make time for hygiene is one, make time for hygiene. Anyway, so it happens in waves. So you'll have 1 month for your, first submission of projects. And so like I said, it's like a wave. So 1 week before the submission, everyone will be focused on that. But the 2 weeks before that, everyone will be focused on societies, on moods, on debates, on internships, like research projects, just 25,000 other things, right? And that's really one of the biggest benefits of going to NLS is the people and the interesting people and the 25,000 interesting things that they're doing, right? So you'll really have to prioritize your time and be very strict with it. But like I said, it happens. So after first submission, you get 2 weeks free, and then everyone will be doing exams, at least the first and second years. And the third and fourth and fifth years rely on the slave labor of first and second years. So the volunteering of them, so they also won't be doing anything for events and stuff like that. So then once the midterms are over, then you'll have like a week or 10 days of relaxation, and then you'll have your second submission to make. So it is rigorous, but you get it. It happens in bursts and fits, and the system is unforgiving. But work with the system, and the system will work with you. And you need to find your rhythm with it. And I'm happy to get on calls with any of you. As I hope this doesn't happen to you, but I'm pretty sure it will in the first 3 weeks. And I'm happy to, if you guys want to call me, just being like, I made a mistake, help me, or I'm a celebrity, get me out of here, or something of that, to use that term. But yeah, so it is rigorous, it is difficult. I'm not going to lie to you, but it happens in bursts and fists. You'll have your time to explore all of yourself. Yeah.
I had another question. So, when I'd gone there, they said that their sports and extracurricular infrastructure is,
Yeah.
well, they have a lot of societies and stuff, but
Yeah.
I didn't see much in way of sports, to be
Yes.
honest.
Yeah.
And they said that they don't use half their facilities,
Yep.
or they don't have a lot of sports.
Yeah. So firstly, Sportscom represent a little bit, at least first year. And secondly, yeah, we as we like to say, whenever we do or like whenever we feel like like it's been a while, we'll do a try NLU tournament with NLS, Nalsar and NUJS. And as we like to say, it's the competition of the laziest, or you can't lose because you're competing with people equally unfit. So it's really we there is like who if you want to do sports, go to DU, go to MU, whatever, but don't go to an NLU. Apart from NUJS, which is a building, but somehow they do it well. So no, the football what do you call it, field is used more in the evenings than it is during the daytime, and not for sports. So yeah. So there is a gym. I used to call it a health insurance scheme because it's funded by the many for the few. So it's there. So yeah, forget about sports. Just if you get to play tennis every day, or play football every day, or go to the gym every day, that's, be really happy with that. Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, so by way of sports,
Yes.
I heard about a side deal or something that they
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
with
That
SAI to
no,
share their
it just
facilities.
doesn't.
No?
I don't know what this side deal is. No one knows what this side deal is. There used to be a side deal. People, I've heard there were stories of people who used to go to Sai to use the swimming facilities and things like that. No one, like, that hasn't happened in a decade. So that being said, Spiritus is a really, 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 really special time on the calendar of events. Now it's changed completely, but now it's in the third trimester, which makes no sense. But Spiritus is a very special time. The entire campus will be full of life, and with people will want to work with each other across batches and across now sections and stuff, which you won't see in any other event in law school. And so that's sports at law school. There isn't much, but when it happens, it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there'll be so much more emphasis on TT and chess than you'd think. Yeah. Right. Any other questions? I mean, we do have few more minutes. Yeah.
What is the student-faculty relationship like?
It's
Like,
really depends on the faculty. So you have some faculty who are like, it's very good actually. It's at least and I was, at least in my time, and you've got to make sure that it's good. If you're the kind of person who gives proxy and gets caught, and if you're the kind of person who bunks classes, or doesn't do their viva properly, or doesn't turn up for their viva and stuff like that, then of course the professor is not going to heed you at all. But the faculty is super approachable. They're mostly very chill. A lot of them are alumni, so they really understand what you're going through. So they are very open to any suggestions, and they really want to work with the students as well. So they are the one great benefit of going to NLS is that everyone wants to work with you. You are bombarded with opportunities which other law schools don't get. Make use of those research opportunities, make use of those internship opportunities, make use of those debate opportunities, etc. And yes, like I said, go up to faculty, don't bother them, but they're very approachable. You'll have to do consults for all your submissions. And so you will necessarily have to spend at least 10 minutes twice a month with them, whoever's teaching you that trimester. So yeah. So you want them to know who you are, because right now, in a class of 40, 50 people, a lot of people can get lost. So you want them to know who you are, and you want to show them that you care and are fun and passionate. The student faculty culture used to be a lot different in my time. Now it's a little bit more formal, but back in the day, like, we used to just, and you chill with Sarsu, you chill with Ambasta, you chill with everybody. Don't worry about it. I mean, if Sarsu ma'am is watching this, I know they won't chill with you. I'm just saying you're a very nice person. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And Ambasta sir, I'm basing, see, it was very nice to chill with you in my first year, is what I'm saying. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Strawberry Fields.
Yeah.
How is it?
It's okay. Let me put it this way. It's a lot of fun. It's the #1 grassroots festival, rock, especially rock and rock adjacent genres. It's the #1 grassroots festival almost in the country. You want to join EMC? You should join EMC. You know what I mean? And it'll be a lot of fun. I do want to tell you the reality of it also a little bit is that about half the population doesn't care about it because they're just not into like that a concert kind of thing. So it's a little annoying for them while they're trying to study to have like bands setting up around 12 and all of that happening. That being said, it's you want to get into it in your first year, you want to do PNP in your first year for it, you'll be sent out to different locations and asked, you'll have to get people to come to the concert. First 2 days are just people, first 2 days you'll hear a lot of bands, it's okay. Third day night is of course the big deal. And the nights before when you're setting up and stuff like that as a first year is always a lot of fun. Yeah, it's like, it's an Spiritus and Strawberry Fields. These are the biggest, and MCS, the trilegal. I didn't get into that as much. I didn't get into mooting as much, but definitely from a non-academic perspective, Spiritus and Strawberry Fields, Spiritus from an organizing perspective, Strawberry Fields from a letting go and just having, like, Strawberry Fields is your one excuse to let go during the year. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah. All right, guys. Best of luck. These were the wrong questions to ask. There were so many more questions you could have asked. So I understand that from the outside looking in, you're going like, "Ha, Strawberry Fields kaisa hai? Academic rigor hai ki nahi?" But you should, I'm happy to field questions from you once you get into it. But there's so much more that you have to learn. Yeah, and I'm looking. Best of luck, guys. Yeah. So, yeah. So that being said, so Target Success, as I told you, we'd learn more about it at the end of the podcast episode. So Target Success is a coaching institute run by me, which, and if you have any questions about it, we're going to be doing exactly what what Sana, Aditya, and Ayesha mentioned during this episode. That's exactly why it's set up. You will get personalized attention. We do logic and legal firstly and primarily. You get a mock a week and many more benefits, which will help you actually crack the CLAT and prepare you for the exam, not just the subjects. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out at my number on WhatsApp, 81475-80097. Thank you so much for your time, guys. I really appreciate it. It was a really fun conversation. You also have my number now, so feel free to reach out. And I'm in touch with you guys anyway. So I'm looking forward to seeing your journey through law school and afterwards. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Best of luck for the boards and have a good evening. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.